Hey, Business Unchained listeners, thanks for tuning in. Today's guest had an 8-figure exit in 2022, but what came after is what really changed his life. In this episode, we talk about how years of self-doubt, burnout, and solving the wrong problem eventually led him to develop a framework that's now helping business owners break through blind spots in leadership, mindset, health, and growth. We also get into building businesses that don't rely entirely on you, the power of masterminds and coaching, and the simple phrase that's become a mantra inside his community: make a decision and move forward.
Hey everyone, welcome to Business Unchained, the podcast where entrepreneurs come together to build businesses that are stronger, more valuable, and fully in their control. I'm Bobby Mascia, a serial entrepreneur, wealth advisor, author, and the founder of the Exit Ready Institute, a structured program that helps entrepreneurs align business growth with personal wealth to build one cohesive strategy that takes the business beyond them. Because here's the truth, being exit ready isn't about the exit, it's about the readiness. Because exit ready businesses are just simply better businesses to own. If you're ready to gain clarity, take control, and unlock the full value of what you've built, you're in the right place. So let's go.
Bobby Mascia is the founder and CEO of Greenridge Wealth Planning. All opinions expressed by Bobby and his guests are solely their own and do not reflect the opinion of Greenridge Wealth Planning. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon for any financial decisions. Clients of Greenridge Wealth Planning may maintain positions in any securities discussed in this podcast. Please welcome author and founder of Blind Blaming, Kevin St. Clergy.
All right, buddy, I'm so glad to have you on. Kevin, you just wrote a book, Blind Blaming. It's an important message because I think a lot of business owners, we have these blind spots. And talk to me a little bit about what got you in front of the computer to say, it's time, clickety-clack, I'm going to put this book together. What was the true inspiration behind it?
Well, when I had a very successful exit, I had an 8-figure exit back in 2022 with my business, life-changing amount. And after I drove home in my one stupid purchase, I got my Lambo, came home. We had a little small group get together. One of my buddies at that party, a small party, not a rager, but I had saved a bottle of champagne for like 10 years, a bottle of Veuve Clicquot, and so we had that. And then he just asked, "What's next?" And I was like, "I don't know. I kind of thought I was effing done." And he's like, "Man, you're only 50 years old. I don't think you're done." And I'm like, "Yeah, you're probably right. I might be day drinking if I'm not careful." But it actually started to bug me. So I came into my office on my little virtual whiteboard and I wrote, "What is next?" after everybody left, and sat there just in quiet thinking. And I looked up on my shelf and it said How to Do a TED Talk, was a book that I bought years ago. I was like, well, that's something. I spoke all over the world, but I haven't really done a TED Talk. So that's an interesting challenge. Maybe I'll do that. So I joined a mastermind. It was a pretty high-end mastermind with Heather Monahan, who was actually on TED.com. So I was like, well, I'll learn from somebody who's the best. And so I went through her mastermind and she's like, Kev, you've spoke on so many things. I think you need some help with a group that I usually work with to help people like you find that one thing that they can do. And so she turned me on to some writers and we went through this 2-week process. It was really cool about all my life lessons for the last 50 years. And we settled on, they really liked this story of when I was 10 years old, because when I was 10, I was a phenomenal baseball player. I had a 550 batting average. And if you don't know what that means in baseball, that's actually not just good, that's phenomenal. It's great.
Yeah, that's Hall of Famer status.
Yeah. And my dad was pushing me. Other people were like, you really need to start developing this kid for high school ball and maybe you can do other things. So we went to work in the off season. We practiced every day. I had a swing coach. Of course, my dad's pushing me on my mindset, everything else. And then when I stepped to bat the next season, something was different because I started swinging and missing. In fact, I missed every single pitch for the entire season. I literally went from hero to zero. And everybody can probably guess what I heard from the stands. Come on, kid, keep your head in the game. Play to win this time.
I love this story because I had the same exact experience.
Interesting. So my dad would give me these lectures on the way home too. That was the other thing. It's like, and you can probably guess what those lectures were like. My attitude sucks. You need to pull your head out of your know what. And all these things that I remember. And after another year of a zero batting average, I'd had enough. I quit because then I started to doubt myself. It was the first time in my life that I felt like a complete failure because I loved baseball as my life. And 2 weeks after I quit, we found out what the real problem was. I went to a fluke eye exam and they said, sorry, kid's practically blind without glasses. Now, I had made straight A's. I was set up front, so everybody missed it. But here's the real problem. The adults in my life never stopped blaming me for something that was out of my control.
That's a
And
shame.
when we were going over this story that they loved so much, I was like, this is something that I think applies to business, because I've been coaching for 20 years at that time, or 25 years. And I was like, I see this in business and life every day and have so many different stories. And they're like, well, take that. And so we wrote the TED Talk. Then I started sharing it on my first podcast that we had that we grew pretty successful with guys like John Gray, Jack Canfield, some pretty big name authors that had sold a lot of books. And for those of you who don't know, Jack Canfield wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul, 500 million books. He was a really great guy. And they just kept saying, man, this would make a great book. This would make a great book. And then finally, one of them said, I think you have a duty to write this book because it could change millions of lives. And so we did. And then we're on our way.
How do you think that impacted you when you felt like everybody was blaming you and you didn't have it all together, and then you went to the hardest part, which was quitting? Because my experience was slightly different. My parents were not engaged in my athletics. I was at one game and my father showed up and I got up to bat. And by the time the end of the game rolled around, I think I struck out twice and I walked once. And he said to my mother, have you taken him for an eye exam? Because I don't think he sees the ball. And she's like, no, he's fine. He goes, no, I think he needs glasses because he's really not even close. So she took me and, yep, I need glasses.
Well, that's great because they saved you and nobody did that for me. We don't know why. Even today, it's like, keep your eye on the ball. Hello.
How do you think that impacted you, though? I mean, as a kid growing up, and I'm sure it maybe snowballed a little bit too. What do you think are the lingering effects of that?
It was, bad attitude because I doubted myself. I ended up playing golf. I stopped playing team sports altogether because then there was nobody else to blame but I had glasses so I could see the ball. I could hit the ball, and I actually excelled in golf and got a golf scholarship first year of college, but it had a dramatic effect on my mindset. And I believe held me back for another 25 years of not being as successful as I could. I was very driven. That I had, but I think it really held me back. I could have done a lot better and gotten where I got to a lot faster if we would have just gotten me glasses. I may not even be here because I loved baseball and I was good. I was a pretty good fielder too. I played second base. So that's what I wanted to do. I still struggle to watch baseball today because I loved it so much.
So you built up a lot of self-doubt. It wasn't really a chip on your shoulder. It was more self-doubt. And that
self-doubt and just a bad attitude. I started to really resent parents. Kind of went through we all do as teenagers, but I went through a rebellious stage, but I just got to the point where I hated authority. And that last year, the coach I had was absolutely horrible. He didn't work with me. He just said, this guy's got a bad attitude. Because what I didn't share is that last year I only played 2 games and sat on the bench most of the time. And my dad wouldn't let me quit. And I don't know why they didn't test my eyes at that time. Everybody just blamed my bad attitude, which is what blind blaming is all about.
So when did it change for you? You said 25 years. What was the moment?
Yeah, I think we had I'll just tell a couple. Well, I started a digital marketing company. Mm-hmm. And we had gotten to about $1 million a year in revenue.
And you have a background in audiology.
I do, yeah.
Right?
We started a digital marketing company in audiology. We had 450 clients with about 900 locations when we sold. Team of about 23. So it was a very successful business that we had built. But when I started to struggle with that business around 2007 or 8, and I ended up having to bring on a partner. And I was blaming everything. I was blaming customers because we had gotten to the $1 million mark, but people were starting to leave. And then employees were starting to leave. And everybody thought I was the most disorganized guy on the planet. So they were trying to help me they're trying to help the owner have a better planning system and put me through how to plan my day. And my business partner was convinced I had crippling ADHD and was encouraging me to get on medicine. Even went so far as to hire an ADHD coach for me. Mm-hmm. And after about 6 months, the coach said, I don't think you have ADHD. And he sent me to the doctor. And the doctor's like, so you've struggled with this your whole life? And I'm like, no. And I wish people would stop saying it. And then we found out that I had sleep apnea. So it wasn't that I had motivation problems. It wasn't that I had problems with organizing my time. I was just chronically exhausted. And once we got that fixed, then the business grew to where we sold it. And it was very successful. So that's when I started to realize that's what made me a better coach, even though we hadn't discovered the blind blaming thing yet. That came later. Mm-hmm. But I started to figure out that we were fixing the wrong problem a lot in business. And so when we went to work, we started doing more assessments. We changed our whole philosophy around how to grow that digital marketing agency. And we became a practice building company, which means we knew the digital marketing would work, but it takes 6 to 9 months, as most people know, to start getting results from the things you do. So you got to do a lot of good things for a long time, just like working out or anything else. So we started focusing on helping them grow their business, where A lot of times when we analyzed their business and found what their root cause of their problems were, for example, as a marketing company, we would find this company was blaming, they'd had 3 different marketing companies before us. And I'm like, well, this doesn't sound right. Not all of our competitors are horrible. So we started listening to their calls, and we found that they were only answering 50% of their calls. And then they were only scheduling 20% of the phone calls they did answer. And they were blaming the
blind blaming.
company. Yeah, so there's blind blaming again. Even though we didn't have a name for it, we had a fix for it. So we really focused on helping them build a better business. And when we did that, that's when we started hearing things like, you guys have changed my life. Not only have you helped me grow a better business, you paid for your services in the first 3 months. I can't wait to see what happens now, where we became a true resource.
So how'd you reframe that for clients? Because I think, a lot of times it's the easiest is to blame. The harder is to look inward and see what it is that might be holding you back that you have control over. Well, how did you reframe that for them?
Well, what we do is we talk about the 3 fatal flaws. So I think the first thing in the first section of the book is called awareness. We make people aware of not only what blind blaming is, what are the 3 fatal flaws and why do we blind blame? And so the 3 fatal flaws are simple. There's these cognitive biases that you've heard of. We've all heard of. They're mental shortcuts. They help us make decisions faster, but they can also be very bad. And they give us structure too, but they can also hold us back. And the first one's called availability bias. And so what happens is when we have a problem that we want to fix and we're an owner or a founder, the first thing that pops into our head, that's it. I know it. I feel it deep in my soul. Like when business is down, clearly a marketing problem. And so then we go to work and then we suffer from another one, the second fatal flaw, which is called confirmation bias. And that's when we start looking for data to back up our initial thought. But what happens is when you do that, we start ignoring contradictory evidence because we're trying to protect ourselves. Mm-hmm. And the fatal flaw number 3 is you're so busy looking at the wrong thing, you can't find the right solution. And so you get stuck for sometimes years and even decades.
So what are the things that you do to help pull business owners out to get a better bird's eye view of how to approach a problem or what might be the best course of action?
Yeah, we call it the RCD Method. So it stands for reflect, connect, and decide, which is simple, but simple doesn't always mean easy. Reflect starts with a question. Okay, is there something else when you're stuck or you have a recurring problem or something keeps happening, no matter what you do, you have to ask yourself, okay, is there something else going on that I can't see? And that's the first key question. And there we look at different areas of their life and their business.
Where do you think the point of most resistance is when working with a client in this RCD method? Because I'd love to hear where your experience is with most people and how the RCD method and utilizing it has broken through and allowed them to kind of level up at that point.
Yeah, I'll give you a great example. There's a person who's in our mastermind who I personally coach now. She's in one of our elite masterminds, meaning they have $2 million a year businesses or larger. She's probably closer to 8 or 9 million a year. Very successful young woman. And she'd been through a couple of coaches and they tried to fix this in her business and that, and she still wasn't growing. And that part of that RCD method is we have this thing called the obstacle DNA analysis. We really go deep in what the obstacle is, but we look in 5 different areas of their life, not just their business. We look at their health. We look at their purpose. We look at resources. We look to see if they have a growth versus a fixed mindset and a couple other things. And with her, I asked her one question. She's like, you take a very different coaching approach than I'm used to. I was like, well, we got to get to the bottom of what's going on. How long has it been since you've been to the doctor? You're 44 years old. And she's like, well, I go like every couple of years. And I was like, well, I think you need to go again. And let's start with some of these things. And here's the things I want you to ask your doctor. Because when she sent me, I'm not a doctor, don't pretend to be, but there are some things that I look at with older clients that I've experienced. And this particular, when we sent her to the doctor, what she found was that she had low testosterone. Because the symptoms she was experiencing is like employees kept turning over. They thought she was mean. She was in a bad mood all the time. Nothing she seemed to try worked. And when we got that one thing fixed, we looked at a lot of other things that we found that we can work on later. But that one thing, getting her healthy and getting her energy levels up, and everything fell into place. Her relationship at home her employees got better, where people were asking, who are you and where has this person been? This is the kind of leader that we want. And when we got that one thing fixed, everything else fell into place. Then we could work on getting her the right avatar. Then we could work on creating funnels for her business. Nothing was working before because she was exhausted and tired too. And that's just a couple of health examples. But a lot of times we find people that have a purpose problem. I started working on a fractional COO. When we started work with him, I just asked him a question. You don't really like what you're doing, do you? And he's like, nobody's ever asked me that before. I was like, you seem to hate this. I don't think this is what you want to do. What do you really want to do? And he's like, well, I've always thought about starting an AI company, and that's really what I'm passionate about. I was like, well, then do that, because you are absolutely miserable with what you're doing now. And it turns out he did. And then 4 months later, we got on the phone and he says, look, I got to tell you the story. of what my wife said to me yesterday. I was like, well, I'm not a marriage counselor if that's where you want help. And he's like, no, just hear me out. So he's like, I changed it. We ended up making more money in the last 3 months than I did the entire year for the fractional CO. And my wife said, hey, I don't know who this new guy is, but you are fully present. And I like this guy. This is the guy that I married. So those are just a couple of examples of when you really get to the root cause of what's going on, how we can help business owners grow.
It's amazing how, when you're in a business and you're growing a business, especially in the early stages when grit and heroics outweigh everything else, you're so unilaterally focused on making this thing work that you forget about everything else, right? Your health. If you're a gym rat, you forget to go to the gym, you forget to take your vitamins, you forget to eat healthy. You try to pick everything that's easy and quick. And before you know it, all of those other things that help to supplement the quality of your life, as they start to deteriorate and you start honing in on business, the only thing left to deteriorate is your activities at business and how you show up.
Yep.
And so many people, they allow for that to happen for so long before they address the issue. And that's a major blind spot because they think that the efforts that they're giving toward their business, if they were to take that away and take care of themselves, it would then take away from their business. And the reality of it is it's the same kind of idea as when you get on a plane and they go through those stupid safety features and they say, put the air mask on yourself first before you help somebody else, because the reality is you don't want to pass out before you get your kid helped. That's kind of the same thing with business. You have to take care of yourself, because if you take care of yourself, everything else shows you show up better and everything else kind of falls into place.
Yeah, it reminds me of a story of these. It was two loggers, and one logger worked about 7 hours a day, and he took an hour break in the middle of the day, and the other logger worked 9-hour days. And he was usually pretty exhausted. And the other one had a successful marriage at home. But he was outperforming this other logger 2 or 3 times sometimes. And he's like, I don't see how you do this. He finally has a conversation. I was like, I don't see how you do this. And you even disappear for an hour every day at lunch. What do you do? And he said, oh, well, I go home and I eat and I sharpen my saw. And I think that's what we forget to do. We forget to sharpen the saw. And that's Stephen Covey is the one who coined that term. And that's it. And I think we forget, because back when I first started the agency, it was get stuff done mode.
No, it was get
done mode. Okay.
And
yeah,
we're also going to talk about making a decision. We don't shy away from the reality.
It's part of that RCD method where I might have another word that I'd like to use with your permission, because it's a very powerful time to use.
Is that to make a decision?
That's it. Make a decision. Yeah, that's where we get to D. But yeah, that was a hard one for me. I struggled with that. And now I lost 40 pounds last couple of years because I changed my whole identity, because I did not want to make the same mistakes I made before. But even before we sold, we had figured it out where I would wake up and work out in the morning, but then I would take a 30-minute break at 10, an hour break at lunch, and a 30-minute break at 3. And here's the thing for those of you listening, this is all you got to do. All I did was tell my assistant, under penalty of death, just kidding, to protect me from myself. Because here's what happens with a business owner. They're like, yeah, throw him in at noon. I can talk to him then. And it was Christina.
No, that never happened. Stop. We don't. Us make concessions.
Yeah, no, we don't
take away. Steal from our own personal time.
We're perfect. Yeah, if they want to talk at 7 p.m. Yeah, I'll talk to them. Yeah, it's crazy, but I learned that I was much more effective when I took those breaks and I would go for a walk. And they would just. I wish I probably wouldn't have sold if I would have done some of the things that I do now back then. It was a great business. It was a great exit. I have no regrets. But I think we could have gotten a lot more had I focused a little bit more on myself.
Well, I'm glad to see that you say you don't have regrets, because most business owners, I think the statistic is 70% of business owners have a regret at the end after they sell. A majority of it is because of what you just said in your first statement of lack of purpose. That's usually why the regret comes in. But, there's also the types of people who are like you, where you go, listen, in full reflection, I could have done things differently. I could have kept this thing going. I probably could have grown it more. If that doesn't impact change, and I love the fact that you're impacting that change through coaching and helping other people.
Yeah, it's something I still enjoy. I mean, I have my one-on-one clients. We have our big masterminds are my favorite way to learn. That's my favorite personal way. I mean, I'm in a pretty high-end mastermind with 8-9-figure entrepreneurs, or I'm a little intimidated when I'm in the room. So, which is what I never wanted to be the smartest guy in the room.
Always up level.
That's what we like to do, is put a lot of really brilliant people in a room and have them coach each other. And then we're just there as facilitators and guides.
So you run those?
Oh, yeah. We have several groups. We've got one in audiology, which is where I got my start. We've got a dentist, one that we're starting up that's going well. We've got a real estate mastermind. And we've got one coming up for agency owners because I launched an agency owner coaching program. Now we're starting to scale our coaching program into different niches.
So that's interesting because we just started a program over here called Exit Ready Institute. And it's a cohort-based program similar to like a mastermind, except there's also structured guidance. Every month there's a new topic that is accretive. It takes you through the entire year and you get through the program, and your business should have the foundational components of an exit ready business, because exit ready is your best growth strategy. It doesn't mean you have to sell. It means that you are geared up and ready to go. And when the option comes, if somebody comes in with a blank check, and you know exactly what needs to be on that check in order to live life the way you want to live it. And one of the things that we struggle with on our cohorts is we don't want people not being vulnerable enough to share, because they're afraid that these trade secrets are going to go to their competition. But it seems like you found a special sauce of, like, even though you're competitors, you guys can still share. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we handle that, and it's a great thing to bring up. So we only work with one person in each area. So we're working, like, we have our niched out mastermind group. So like in audiology, we only work with one audiologist in each area. So they don't have their competition in the room.
So geographically.
Yeah, geographically.
I gotcha. Okay. All right. Yeah, that makes sense.
You can do the same thing with industries, though. If you have something that, you have some, if you can, I don't know who you're going after. We haven't gotten into that. But if you can do some exclusivity per industry, which is hard to grow your group depending on what you do.
Yeah.
Or you can create those exit ready things and niche it out where you have 4 different groups like we do. Mm-hmm. And we're about to have 5 and 6 because we have a lot of coaches that are coming to me saying, I want to learn how to do what you guys do. So we partner with other coaches to help them put together masterminds if they have no idea how to do it. They've got to have a certain size list and a certain size business.
Yeah.
Before we work. Like our masterminds, you have to be doing $1 million a year or more to be part of them.
Which makes sense. There's got to be some barrier to entry because there's a different mindset at different levels, which is also why you structure, I think you called it the elite group, being the highest revenue, because different problems, different mindsets, different daily activities, thought processes, the team and leadership teams. So I get it.
At every new level, there's a new devil. So I think that's the key point. But yeah,
I might have to steal that from you.
Oh, go ahead. You can pick anything, because I think the secret, here's what you need to know. The secret to originality is not revealing your sources. So feel free to steal and ethically swipe and redeploy whatever you want. So, and that goes for anybody listening too. Somebody taught me that years ago and I could not stop laughing. I do try to give credit when it's due, but sometimes I forget, or sometimes I say something and I forgot who said it, and it's an audience member who's like, "Hey, didn't so-and-so say that?" I'm like, "Yeah, but I did pay them to coach me, so I think I can use their stuff."
Yeah, listen, it's the highest form of flattery. And if it's been said so many times and it's really made an impression on you, but you can't remember who said it, as long as you just don't personally take credit. Yeah, I totally came up with that. That was me.
Yeah, that's totally all my idea. I mean, look at all the influencers online. They're doing it. But I have another suggestion for you to get people to be more vulnerable in your group. It's worked really well for us. In fact, we did it. Anybody listening can do this in their own business. When we go do on-sites, because when people join some of our elite programs, we actually go out to their office and work with their teams. Mm-hmm. And one of my favorite exercises, not to steal it, but everybody can get it. It's from a book called The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. Patrick Lencioni, I think is how you say his name. This is all laid out at the back of the book. Yeah, I think I see it back there on your shelf. If it's the red one. Yeah, one of my all-time.
Those of you looking, that's the one.
There's a training program that goes with it with a video that's really, really good too, if anybody needs it. He calls it his personal histories exercise. And you just put your team in the room. And we do this in our masterminds too. And we just have them introduce themselves, how many siblings they had growing up, and what was their biggest challenge as an adult or a child. Mm-hmm. And it's usually everybody cries. There's some pretty rough stories that come out of it. But what it does is it gets everybody, if they're sharing their biggest challenge and one of the most horrible things usually that happens to them. And once somebody gets going, I always start, like my brother was murdered last year and it was awful and just horrible. One of the worst things we've ever had to go through, family, and they caught the guy, and we're going through that now again. But usually when you start with a story yourself as a leader, then everybody's like, okay, then I feel more comfortable sharing. But what we've learned is after that exercise, when you need to share something that you're vulnerable about in your business, it's a lot easier than what you just did. In fact, we're about to go back and do another round of visits for some of our elite members. And the staff's like, we don't have to do that personal histories exercise again, do we? It was amazing. We loved it, but we're not going to cry all the time. Like, no, guys, we're good. It was just to get you guys more vulnerable and get you used to sharing some pretty uncomfortable things. And the second thing we did was we celebrated mistakes. So everybody gives
how did you celebrate
blunder.
them?
of the week or the month or whatever. And then everybody votes on who had the biggest blunder of the week. We do that on our team meetings. We do that in our masterminds. Those are 2 tips for everybody.
That sounds fun. Everybody
I
loves
was
a good
nervous
blooper
about
reel,
it.
you know?
When we started it, I got to give my business partner, Charlie, credit for that. When we started, I was like, oh man, come on, Charlie. This is going to be like Charlie and Kevin's walk of shame. I was a nervous wreck. He called me the chief worrier in charge because I was always going off the deep end a lot. I got better at that over the years, but he's like, man, you worry too much. Don't worry about it. Watch, because what it did was it got people more comfortable sharing when they screwed up. Because how many of us have let somebody go and you find out all this stuff they're not fucking doing, and because they were afraid to admit that they made a mistake. And Charlie and I started off being vulnerable. And then after a while, we had this Burger King crown that we sent around for a while, but as a virtual company, getting that mailed around all the time, it got kind of tore up. But it's interesting because when I did sell, they stopped those meetings and they stopped that. They're like, Kevin, they even stopped doing the biggest mistake of the week. And so they got used to it.
Hey guys, Bobby Mascia here. I want to just take a second to thank everyone who's been tuning into Business Unchained since day one. This community, it means a lot to me. And I'm super excited to finally be able to share a big project that I've been working on for some time now, which is my book, Unchained, the raw truth about entrepreneurship, family business, and life balance. It's part memoir, part roadmap, and it just dives deep into my story, the experiences, the mistakes, and the lessons that have shaped how I think about building a business and life. Everything I talk about on the show is rooted in that journey, and in the book, I dig that much deeper. Unchained's available now. Grab your copy through the link or the show notes, or head over to bobbymascia.com. I appreciate you all, and I'm now taking you back into the show. Thank you. I want to dig a little bit into make a fucking decision.
Sure.
I think that is something that people think that they make a decision, but they don't move the ball forward. And that's kind of my thought when I hear make a fucking decision. It's not about making a decision. It's about actually the executing and following through and not giving up. What is it in your world?
I'm going to talk about how I got it wrong a little bit. So let me just go back just a hair. So we got the RCD method, reflect. Is there something else going on that I can't see? And there's these root cause analysis that have people go deep with their team and like ask why? And they're all failures in my opinion, because when you start trying to figure things out in your sphere of influence, you're all stuck with the same successes and failures that are keeping you stuck now. Just like nobody back then, even though I'm glad you caught it for you, nobody back then could see it was my vision, or everybody thought I had ADHD in my own company when there was something completely different going on. It took somebody outside of our sphere of influence to see what we couldn't see. And that's why C stands for connect. And that's where you need a mentor, a coach, or a mastermind, somebody that's outside of your sphere of influence that can help you diagnose what they think is really going on. So once you've asked yourself, is there something else going on that I can't see? And you've got an outside opinion on what's going on that you can't see, and you have something that you think you need to work on, then you need to make a fucking decision and make it right. If you want something different, you have to do something different. But the way I got it wrong was people were starting to MFD all over the place. And that's been the big thing. We call it MFD. And it came from this woman, Kayla, that I was coaching. She was about to acquire one of her competitors, which could be huge for her. It was going to double her business. I'd given her 2 funding sources to look at because she wanted help with that. And she'd hemmed and hawed with them for a couple of months. And on a coaching call, she said, Kevin, I'm just not really sure what should I do? What should I do? And I just said, Kayla, I think you need to make a fucking decision. And she's like, okay. So she left, comes back the next month. And I always start my coaching calls off with what's going well, which is something you guys can also steal. It changed my whole coaching programs. Instead of saying, how's it going? Because people tend to go negative from the start. What's going well? You watch what happens. People go, what's going well? Shit, I don't know. I was ready to complain and blame. Anyway.
Or they stay so surface.
Or they say surface. You got it. So Kayla gets on. She's like, dude, you changed my life. I'm MFDing all over the place. Even my husband's noticed. I mean, we're making decisions. I'm getting stuff done. I'm like, what are you talking about, Kayla? MFD? She's like, yeah, make a fucking decision. I'm doing it. I'm doing it a lot. And I can't, we bought the business. I got it done. We got the loan. I'm like, well, hell, way to go. I was like, do you mind if I use that in my book? And she's like, yeah, you don't have to give me credit. It changed my life. And when I do my keynotes or people read the book and I ask them, what's your big takeaway? They're like, MFD. But here's where I got it wrong a little bit. They're MFDing on the wrong things. Because a lot of times people start having 5 or 6 things that they're trying to MFD on. And what I've gone back and tried to educate people on is, look, you got to have one major goal that you're doing. The guys that have scaling.com, I've turned a few clients onto them that I didn't feel comfortable. They are in industries that I don't work in. And that seems to be something that they're big on, is like, look, pick your one thing that you can do. What's the biggest thing that's going to drive revenue and profitability, and MFD on that.
Yeah.
Because when you do that and then you start helping them structure their day with their first 1 to 3 hours of the day is focused on that, then all of a sudden they actually do start to get shit done.
Right. That's your
So does
major
that
rock.
help?
That's your big boulder. That's the thing that's going to move your business
Yeah,
forward.
your number one
And-
goal. I find that people are trying to focus on too many things. And we've all got, let's face it, guys, we've all got these ever-growing to-do lists as we expand into different professions, and it's getting a lot of fun for me. I have to get back to my number one goal, which lately has just been a video presence. And when I did that, when we started getting really laser focused on shorts, I had 100,000 views on my short videos last month, and we did $50,000 in sales off those stupid videos that I put off for a year.
And is that part of your 100 million people that you want to make sure that
Now,
you're
the 100 million
impacting?
people are when they read the book and they email me, because there's a breakthrough at blindblaming.com. That's when we find out that we've got actual breakthroughs. And we're counting the reviews too, because everybody seems to be sharing a breakthrough that they got from the reviews. So yeah,
reviews are such an important thing, especially when people are going online and they're looking you up. How do you incite people to go back and say something, actually write something on your review pages?
Well, on Amazon, I don't have much control over that. Now, I do encourage people, if you like the book, please leave me a review. And most of them are doing that. So it's those who ask sometimes get. But I think what you have to do, you have to automate this too. So when people buy the book or I give them the book for free, I always ask them, hey, would you mind, if you really enjoyed the book, my challenge to you, here's my free book, but would you please go buy a book for a friend on Amazon and leave me a review? That's working really well. So then they do buy the book, they give it to a friend, and the friend reads it. And I just say, would you mind passing my contact information along? I'd love to know what they liked best about the book. So there's these controlled questions that I like to ask. What did you like best? It's not just with my book though. Everybody listening should use this in their business. When they assign something to their team or their employees, some type of continuing education, don't ask them what they thought. Because again, human nature, there's this other bias, cognitive bias called negativity bias, where they tend to focus on the negative things. You want to ask them, what did you like best? And what were your top 3 takeaways? And that's what we're doing. And then we just have a really good habit one-to-one, but also in some of our follow-up and automation sequences to ask people to go leave a review. So once they get into our funnel, I try to do it on podcast. Look, if you like the book, let me know. You can get it on our website for $15. You get all 4 versions for $15, or you can get it on Amazon. Just leave me a review if you liked it. If you didn't, be critical. And we've gotten some 3 and 4 star reviews, which is fine. They weren't really anything of substance that I could use to make it better, but at least they were honest. But I think those who ask sometimes get is the key.
So in your reflection, you had this big exit for your business. You're doing a lot of coaching. You've built this business. If you were to go back to yourself pre-sale, what would be the top 3 things that you would have told your old self? Obviously, given the fact that if you could remember where your old self was and whether or not and how they would receive that message, but what would you think would be the most 3 impactful things that maybe would have changed the course of your future?
I think the first is not being involved in the day-to-day, because now as we scale, I'm not doing the coaching in every single division that we open up. I find somebody else that's an expert that can do what I do, and then I teach them the methodology. So I wouldn't be involved in the sales, even though when I had that agency, I was the best salesperson. I built the business around me. And the first book I did back here, it's on one of these sides, it's called The Death of Audiology. That was my very first book. And Russell Brunson was my coach back then. He was $6,000 to work with him. And it was funny because I was selling about $3,000 a month worth of books at that time, because we were a very small niche and it was very focused on marketing in that niche. So it was a very successful book. And Russell's like, dude, this is such a sexy title. You should give this book away for free. This is way before ClickFunnels. This is like 20 years ago when we were first getting started. I was like, Russell, I'm making like $3,000 a month on this book. I'm not giving it away for free. He's like, Kevin, I did $6 million last year. You did 60,000. Who should you be listening to right now? And I was like, okay, fine. So I gave the damn book away for free. And the next year we did 400,000, then 600,000. And then we grew it way into millions from there. And it was the best advice I've ever gotten. He's actually the first person that I contacted the day after we sold to say thank you, because if he wouldn't have pushed me a little bit on that, he also taught me that I need to be more coachable. Then I met a guy named David Fry, who's one of Russell's mentors, who I'm still friends with today. And David was like, dude, go as deep as you can in that niche. Get laser focused, do everything you can do in audiology. And we did. We had a medical buying group. We were brokering businesses in that niche. And we were doing everything we could do to help those audiology private practice owners grow. We got really specialized. We could speak the language. Everybody that was signing up was like, I love it that you only work with us.
So I wrote a book as well, Unchained, The Raw Truth About Entrepreneurship, Family Business, and Balance. And that book came from very similar to you. I mean, it was decades of experience learning, tripping over my feet, the scars, the failures, the wins. You know, one of the biggest things that happened to me as I came out of my family business and got back into finance and started to build my business is I always wanted to do it differently than the entrepreneur lifestyle that I was brought up around with my father and my mother. I wanted a business that ran itself. For me, it was all about, a strategic coach will call it your self-managed business. It was all about how do I not be at the center of everything? And as time went by, I built a strong foundation of that. And when my father passed away and I had to unfortunately go and take over his businesses and buy them from my mother, and that was a whole process. But I spent about 80% of my time on reorganizing and restructuring that business and only 20% of my time in my wealth management business. And what I found over the year and a half as I started to get my dad's business self-managed was not only did it run better, not only did it continue to run, but it ran better without me, with exception to the growth engine. I didn't have that piece. That was always like my ego thing. I was the face, I was the ego, and I did it really well. So I then took a step back and I was like, I have to build a sales team. I still have to be the face. I still have to be the driver until my sales team can start to pick up more of that slack. And then we'll catapult ourselves to the next level. And that was a huge lesson learned, I think, similar to you. I mean,
it was,
yeah.
Learn
the lesson. And
it was a good lesson. One to many is the one that I would have changed with the agency model that we had, because I still think you can be the face, but not be day to day. You can. And I'll give you a great example. I was working with somebody recently and they're like, but I am the face and I'm trying to hire more people, but people keep asking for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so we did one thing, and that is when the person scheduled the appointment, they had a video that we shot pre-recorded. There was 2 videos on the thank you page after they booked the appointment, or they were emailed it to if they booked it through their front desk. And the first video was from the owner, the face of the company, saying, listen, I don't see patients anymore, but I've got you connected with one of the best audiologists in the state. She's amazing. She's been doing this for this many years. In fact, when my patients started working with her, they don't even ask for me anymore. That's how good she is. In fact, she's got a little 2-minute intro I want you to watch. She's going to talk about what to expect. When we did that, people stopped asking for that owner anymore. And I think anybody in any business can do the same thing, where they can still scale, do the things we know how to do, because only you can talk the best about your business, but you can still educate, get people interested, be that face, but still turn people on to other people. And it's very rare that people ask them if you set your team up and also pay what that team member needs to be paid to get a good quality person there. You can't take somebody who's making $50,000 or $60,000 and expect him to sell like you, who's making $500,000. That's not good. I think saw Alex Hormozi on a video one time. He's like, you'd be amazed what happens when you pay somebody $250,000 and what kind of talent you can get on your team.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like,
the compensation metrics have to equal what it is that your expectations are, because as much as we've got the 5 love languages and everybody has their own driving motivators, and it's not always money. Money brings security, which brings a lot of those other 4, magnifies it. So when you have that feeling of like, I'm getting compensated correctly for the efforts that I'm putting in, you tend to show up a little bit better. You tend to hold accountability a little bit stronger. You tend to be thinking about, how do I stay an A player? How do I bring everybody up to me? As opposed to your point, hey, how's everything going? The negativity drags you down.
Yeah.
Not when you're getting paid correctly and you create the culture around you that's really lifting everybody up.
Yeah, I like how Dan Martell says it. He says, play dumb. If you've really got the best people, you shouldn't be getting questions like, what do you think I should do? Because you've got to say, I don't know. I just love that so much. When I heard it, I started laughing. I was like, so I'm starting to teach that. And I was like, look, I'll give Dan Martell credit. We've hired him a couple of times to do some stuff for our masterminds. Amazing speaker, an amazing guy. Even my partner went and traveled around with him, was Jet for a couple of days, and had a great time with him. Paid for it, but learned a lot, brought it back. But when he said, look, when somebody comes up to you and say, you got a minute, which is the horrible thing that we all hear in our businesses, if you have that happening to you, you got another problem that you haven't diagnosed yet either. But he just says, I don't know. What do you think? I pay you to do that. But if you're getting that over and over again, I think when I go back and I dig a little deeper, I start finding, and I just had it happen yesterday. This person they've been battling this salesperson for a year. They have not grown in that particular location. And I just said, guys, this is the same drama you were dealing with a year ago. what are you paying that person? Like, I think their base is like $60,000. And I'm like, well, no wonder. You need to get some good talent in there. I mean, we had all of our salespeople made base salaries of 6 figures or more. We did not pay commission. And we had double-digit growth every year. In fact, when we put them on commission, they freaked out and we had to change it back to their high base again because it just absolutely failed miserably. I found out later why, because people on our team love telling clients, look, I don't make commission. I don't get paid whether you move forward or not. I'm recommending this because it is the absolute best thing for you. And I know we can make a difference for you.
I think that varies through industry because we are fiduciaries.
Okay.
And that plays really, I would say, in harmony with everything that we're doing here. The extra incentivization is really for the more accountability of what they're doing with clients that they're taking over. But when I told you my father passed, I had to take over the business and I did the whole reorg and restructure. I changed the compensation, the driving metrics. We started to really create this scorecard.
Yep.
We had to change the culture from work harder to work smarter. We had to change the culture from heroics to teamwork. And in that compensation model was like, hey, listen, you've got a normal base salary that you're making a little bit more than what you used to. But I'm throwing this compensation, this extra earned compensation on top with these different metrics that you have to meet. And if you hit them on a quarterly basis, like this is what driving the business forward looks like. And I'd lie to you if I didn't say at least 3 nights a week, I would wake up in cold sweats, dreaming that my father was still alive, saying to me, what the fuck did you do to my business? Because all I was seeing was money going out. And a lot of people saying to me, you're crazy, you're crazy, you're crazy. This is not how your father did it. This is crazy. This is crazy. And after the first year, we were more profitable than we ever were.
I love it. Yeah, that's what worked for us. There's a
more
lot of comp plans we've set up for other companies that we work with where they're used to that. It was just us trying to go back to saying, well, I want to give these, we're growing now. I want to give them a chance to build a business within our business. And they just did not want to do it. Our team was more concerned about time off, spending time with their kids, having a good base salary. They didn't need to worry about whether they sold or not.
Yep. Flexibility is a big thing.
Flexibility. So finding out what really motivates somebody was my big lesson there. So some people, now, depending on the position and the companies we're working with, we help them develop their interview to try to find that person like me who was very money driven back in the day. Like when I went into my first job, I was like, give me the lowest base you can. I want a big commission. And the company's like, we're not going that high. You'll make too much money. And that was when I was like, probably need to go out on my own.
And sometimes motivators change as your life circumstances change. Sometimes it's just really the way the fabric of who you are. And sometimes you take a deep breath and one of your R for reflect, you reflect a little bit on, you say, what I'm valuing things a little bit differently. I've kind of made the compensation. I've saved the money. I still want to make money. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I also want to maybe spend some time with my kids and actually go to games or coach or spend some time with my spouse because they maybe not be healthy or we have a family issue that's going on or things change.
Yeah, I agree. The different seasons for me back in my 30s and 40s, it was money, money, money. And look, I like having money. I don't think there's anything wrong with having money, but it's just a tool. Then it was balance. So then I created a company where I had the money and the balance. And now that I've got the money and don't really need to worry about it, it's impact. And I think I've seen a lot of seasons in different people's lives where it's like, I got to make the money. But the one mistake I made is not taking care of myself early on. And that's one piece of advice I get any younger entrepreneurs or older. It's never too late to start, as I've learned. I mean, even my doctors are blown away with what I've done. They're like, okay, so you're eating carbs and you're losing weight. I'm like, yeah. And I wish somebody would have told me all I need to do is just walk about 15,000 steps a day and work out 5 days a week because it's super simple to fit that in. And it's changed my world. And it's not that hard. I have this whole gym we call it the Garage Mahal. It's a 3,000 square feet casino, film studio, indoor golf, and a gym. So I go nowhere anymore. But in fact, we bring people over here to do the masterminds at the house now. So it's so much fun. But
and
all I need is a treadmill and some weights.
And I think what you're doing for clients, because, I've had a business coach for the better part of the past decade. And I think that when I started to see the real growth curve of my business, of my life, how I viewed things and got out of my own way, my own head, to your point, you can't notice something when you're in the weeds and the weeds are up to your head, your forehead, and you're looking around trying to say, oh, I know all the blind spots in my business and in my life and in my personality and how I address people and how I show up, because the weeds are too high.
Yeah.
And you could climb up a tree, but sometimes you don't really know what you're looking for. But then you have that trail guide that's sitting there that's going, hey, did you try looking over to the northwest? Because when that sun comes up, it has a really nice reflection on the pond, and you're going to see some of the animals and the wildlife kind of come up. Holy shit, that's amazing. I would have missed that.
So true.
And
So
that's what
true.
a coach is. A coach is somebody who just kind of opens up a new lens and allows you a little bit of room and a little bit of breath to kind of see things and maybe react or take action a little bit differently, or as you would say, make a fucking decision a little bit differently.
Well, they can push you to be better. One of my favorite stories, when I hired my first business coach, like 20-something years ago, I'd gone through a Tony Robbins thing, and then I read Jack Canfield. I've been following those guys for years. It was kind of neat to be on Jack Canfield's TV show because he's one of my heroes. I was totally like starstruck and everything else. It was very awkward, but we did it turned out really great.
But a cool awkward, right? Like, not like an awkward.
Like kind of like one of those self-adulating douchebag moments where you're like, fuck, I made it. I feel like I kind of made it now. When I got the garage Mahal built and got the indoor golf with the 11-foot by 17-foot screen, I don't know. It was just me kind of telling yourself, hey, you did well. Keep going. You got more in you.
So let me ask you a question, because I love the fact that you just said, I feel like I just made it. I love to know your viewpoint, your relationship, how do you deal with imposter syndrome? Do you ever have that popping up?
I've never had it personally. I always thought that, somebody asked me one day, Kevin, did you ever think about being this successful? And I said, every fucking day. Yeah. I thought about it every single day. I never had imposter syndrome. I always felt like everybody that I met that was super successful, I was like, God, I just don't think they're any smarter than me. There's no way I can't do what they're doing. And if I met somebody who did get to that level and they were a total asshole, I always wanted to be that guy that could make money and share and just give. Like Jack Canfield told me one time years ago, Kevin, you can take anything that I've ever done. Just give me credit. You can steal it. You can use it to make your own money. I've made enough money in my life. And I was like, that's where I want to be. And that's where I'm at. So if I take the Lambo out, kids come up and like, what a great car. I was like, hey, get in, start it up. Put it on your dream board. Let's take some pictures.
What Lambo you got?
When I got the car, I had taken my picture that had been on my dream board for 21 years.
What is it? What's the Lambo? I want to know the model.
It's a 2019 Urus.
All right.
So
very nice.
I almost got beat by a Tesla one day. So I was pissed and I went to the dealership and I was like, listen, I almost got beat by a Tesla. I'm like, well, we can soup it up. I'm like, well, yeah, do that. So anyway, I was at the dealership and there was this kid, 13 years old, taking pictures with his parents. And I asked the guys at the dealership, I was like, what's going on here? And they said, well, we let the kids come in and take pictures. Like, that's awesome. So the parents met me and I was like, look, I've had this on my dream board for 21 years and I'm finally getting my car and I'm going to give this picture to your son. I was going to carry it in my car, and I wrote on the back, 2 lessons for you. Number 1, don't ever let anyone steal your dreams. And then number 2, it's really hard to beat someone who never quits. And I gave it to him. And that was kind of one of my other moments where I was like, all right, now I feel like I'm giving back.
Manifest your
really
destiny,
cool story. I kind of got teary-eyed after that. And, all the people are like, well, I'm just not a car person. I hear that. Or like, man, I really want one of these. What do you do for a living? And I usually say, well, I just read a lot of books. Start there.
Everybody's got their thing though, right?
I think so. For me, it's got their thing that they can justify. I will never sell that car. The dealership's trying to constantly, every time I take it in for service, they're like, we should get a new one. I'm like, why? It's the same one. And this one means a lot more to me because this is the one that I got when I made it. And I'm not trying to go super to the next level. I have no dreams of being $100 million company, even though we might get there by accident. Because if we can get to that $50 million mark with $10 million in EBITDA, I know that it's worth 10 to 13 times EBITDA. We could have a $100 million exit. But our goal now is just impact, just like we did back in 2018 when we focused our energy in our company on making impact for our customers, changed our whole sales process around that. That's when we started to grow. And that's the thing that I think a lot of people miss. What's the outcome of your business? People buy outcomes. They don't buy services. People get so focused on what they do and then offer stacks and all this other bullshit that's being taught right now, when really it's about what are you going to do for them?
Yeah. For different people, they have their different things that they're manifesting for. For me, it's one thing. For my wife, it's another. For people listening, it might be a completely other thing. It could be vacations. It could be a bigger bank account. It could be whatever. But until you have that purpose, the strive for those things are just going to be a difficult path because it doesn't come as easy when you have purpose as it does when you're just chasing that thing.
I agree. And I don't think it's as fulfilling either, because you'll get that thing and sometimes you've had to screw people over to get it.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't feel good once you realize what people are, not that you should care what people think and what they're saying, but there is a way. I always wanted to be as successful as I could be without screwing people over. Now, are there people that felt like I did? Always. I don't think you get to a certain level where somebody doesn't feel left out or blames you for something that you had absolutely nothing to do with.
Blind blaming.
Yeah, it's blind blaming. I had a client tell me, when you mention some of these people that are more successful than me, I take it as a personal attack. And I'm like, well, that's on you, not me. I have no control over what you think. It's a coaching client. We ended up not working together. I was like, it sounds like you need to go find somebody softer or somebody but different. Mm-hmm. And we parted ways that day. I'd never heard that before. It kind of hurt a little bit because I'm like, that is not what I do. I'm trying to motivate you to be better because you asked me, well, what are the other people doing? I was like, well, here are some of the other people that are where you want to be. This is what they do.
Yeah. And some people, you never want to hire a coach as a tool of verification because you're hiring somebody who's just going to agree with you. They're not stretching you to the new levels that you're hoping to get by hiring a coach. If you're just looking for tools of verification, I mean, like you said, you can go inward. Go to the employee that agrees with you, or go to the friend that agrees with you, or the family member that always agrees with you to tell you how great you are. But sometimes you have to be told where your blind spots are in order to get to that next level and shed that skin.
I agree. And I think you need to find out, as you said before, what you really want. Like for Jen, my girlfriend, she's 44 and she started young. She's got 4 grown children and she just had her 6th grandbaby. And that's all she wants to do. To her, she's like, I just always wanted to be where I could be in a position to take care of the grandkids and spend time with them while they're young. And then I'll do my thing. And I'm like, well, then do that. Because you hate.
It's amazing because she's got plenty of years to do her thing at 44 with grandkids.
Yeah,
she still has her whole life ahead of her.
I say, do it while you've got the energy. It's good. I know you think the kids are starting too young like you did, but it's already done. Enjoy them. I've never had any kids. I always joke around and say I have no kids, no wives, but Jen and I have been living together for a while. So that's going extremely well, but I've never had children. So it's kind of neat. I actually see why you guys keep your kids and you like them, because when they're small and they're cute, they're like 1, they're adorable most of the time, but just about the time where they're not adorable, we send them home. So grandparenting is awesome.
So I love this conversation. I'm so glad that we got the time to jump on the microphone together and wrap it out. Where do our listeners find you? Where is it that they could get the book, and also maybe research you for some coaching or see just some of your mindset and how you approach things?
Blindblaming.com is the best place they can go. Everybody can go to blindblaming.com. You can get my book there, all 4 versions, plus some bonuses for $15. I do believe people that pay attention, so we don't do free stuff much anymore. But I think that's a great place to start, or just the book on Amazon. It's in audiobook, it's in book, and it's also on an ebook as well. So that is the best place to start. On blindblaming.com, there's also a place to contact me if you'd like to have a conversation. A lot of times, though, when we do that initial conversation, we get to the blind blaming concepts. We can figure out what's going on one of those calls. That's the only bad thing about beyond blind blaming, the methodology. Sometimes on that first call, we give them what they need, and that's all they need. And I'm happy to do so because that's what our goal is now, impact. Sometimes people need a little bit more help, and we've got some programs that may be able to help them. So thanks for having me. It was a great conversation. I love
it, man. And I appreciate you. And I'm going to keep following, and maybe we'll have you on for the next book when it comes along.
I love it.
Hey guys, Bobby Mascia here. If you've been listening to Business Unchained, you know we're creating conversations that matter. Real stories and strategies to help business owners and entrepreneurs win. We've been putting a lot of work into these episodes in our online community, bringing you content that can actually move the needle for your business. And we're everywhere. Instagram, LinkedIn, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, TikTok, you name it, we're there. So look, if you're getting value from what we're doing, please follow, subscribe, and drop a quick comment or like. It really helps us grow this thing. Just search Business Unchained and you'll find us everywhere.